When you talk about PlayStation exclusives, you'll immediately talk about God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima. But during the high times of those exclusives, there was one that many may have missed, or some don't regard as Sony's best outing. That is Days Gone, a forgotten exclusive from Sony by Ben's studio. While Days Gone is a pretty standard open world game, there are some stuff that set it apart. But why did so many people go on to just forget about Days Gone? Why isn't it on the top lists of PlayStation exclusives or shown everywhere for everyone to look at? Well, today that's what we're going to find out. But before we go any further, welcome to Stay Tuned Gaming. I'm your host Damon, where I get to talk about video games for as long as I want. And if you like this sort of stuff, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below. Today I'm going to look at the zombie-inspired, the world-ravished Days Gone. So strap on your helmet, crank your engine, and prepare for a wild ride through the ravaged remains of America.
Hope you're right about your old lady, Deke. Gotta ask you something. What does it matter if everyone else is dead?
The story of Days Gone takes place 2 years after a global pandemic has swept across the world, transforming a large portion of the population into violent cannibalistic creatures called freakers. In this post-apocalyptic setting, we follow the story of Deacon St, a former outlaw biker who has now become a drifter, scrapping by as a bounty hunter. Deacon has lost a lot in his life, including the love of his life, Sarah, and the only thing that really keeps him going is his brother and friend, Boozer, who is also part of this biker gang. But when Boozer is injured, it forces Deacon to meet new friends, meet old friends, make new enemies, and have decisions that shape the future of all those around him and could lead to a full-scale war. The story of Days Gone is actually really good. It's a story of human connection and how people can come together to survive and create new societies. If you've seen it all before in zombie apocalyptic films, then it's the same here. But where Days Gone really excels is in the relationships and the friendships that are in the game. There's a lot of really good character writing in this game, which really surprised me. It took this very standard post-apocalyptic zombie setting and really gave a lot of character to it. Deacon comes across many people in his travels, and each one are trying to survive in different ways, from working to the camp to trying to rebuild a society or even becoming a military. Each one has different ways of doing it, and Deacon, who is an outsider to all of this, just is trying to get on by. But once he starts to feel that maybe Sarah is alive or there's things that he could do, he starts to be more proactive. And this happens when Boozer gets injured. And once his injury happens, he's trying everything to not only save Boozer, but try to figure out what must he still do and what keeps him going once that has happened. I really love a lot about Deacon's character. There's a great mix of humans that fight themselves and the infected, and how Deacon really just wants to live but doesn't really know how to move on. There's some really good stuff here. I love a lot of the writing when it comes to the characters. There's so many different and diverse characters that you could see each of their motivations, you could see their goals. It's basically a really good episode of a zombie show, you know, like a really good episode. And while the infected does take a backseat here and there, it really does work well when it comes to the character. Deacon's character is really great. Boozer's and everyone you come across over the many hours that you play this game. The story is just so well with these really well-defined characters. And it really surprised me when it comes to that. Now, it's not great overall. While the first half of the game deals with a mix of humans fighting themselves, the infected, a great cast of characters, all well-defined and interesting, the second half of the game kind of loses it for me. Don't get me wrong, there's still that character moments and really good, excellent voice acting that really helps the game come through, but the second half of the game has Deacon dealing with a newly found militia group led by an insane colonel. This is the weaker part of the story for me, and it becomes less about the people and more about survival and fighting a war against each other. It felt pretty generic, and yes, the story is generic in the first half of the game, but it felt that the character and the character writing was so strong that I really did get into it. I will admit though that the game's story is pretty slow. It takes a while for things to really start to ramp up, and once they do, it starts to really become something I really got interested in. The strong point is definitely the writing around the characters and how they really try to survive. There's a good strong ending to the game as well. It's a shame that we'll never get a sequel or a continuation of the story, but I don't really know. Another thing this game does really well is the story of the infected. It does something really good stuff. When it comes to these type of games or this type of story, you either do two things when it comes to, how these people get infected. You either don't know how it happened or you try to explain it. And they go around this excellent journey with you trying to find this Nero agency who is basically behind everything, or trying to figure out what the virus is. And you get to learn a lot about how these infected happen and what happened to them and how this all kind of went down. It's some really good stuff and really, really great overall. Now, one of the reasons I think that the game story feels flat around in the middle section of it is that there are many storylines happening at once. There are so many different characters, different things happening in the story, that there really isn't just one main story. Yes, there's the main story of Deacon trying to help Boozer and trying to see if Sarah's still alive after all of these years, but there's so many smaller stories like finding a girl who was locked up in a house and reminding her of Sarah's sister, so you want to help her. There's the story of the various camps that you try to help along the way. All of these just kind of makes the main story get lost in the shuffle as all of these characters happen. It's still good, but it does feel like they just could have had one main story and the rest will be side missions. Now, doing these extra storylines does have some credence because the game has like extra endings if you complete all of these storylines, and even a secret ending that leads to more questions than answers in my opinion. And what's crazy is I don't even know some of these endings existed. They just kind of pop in there. And I was pretty surprised that there was even like 4 extra endings and then a secret ending, which surprised me overall. But I will admit, I had a good time with Days Gone's story. There's really nothing, like I said, the second half not as strong as the first half in my opinion, and it is slow at times where I felt like they could have just really cut a little bit out there, especially in the second half where I felt some of that stuff was filler. But again, if you're looking for some really well-defined character writing, then this game is up there when it comes to character writing. There's just so many facets, especially to Deacon. You get to see so many emotions he goes through this entire story of loss and pain and trying to come to terms with grief and then hope and then again loss, and you get to see this on all the different characters that you meet, which is really, really good. It's a shame we won't ever get to see a sequel to this game or a continuation of the story, because I think there was a lot they could have played around in, how Nero could have become the main arc villain, what the infected are really doing, even though I feel like the story doesn't really stick that into the infected. It kind of loses the infected around the second half of the game, but overall, it's still really, really good. Days Gone story gets an A+ from me.
All the way down there. What do you suppose that feels like? Huh? Torn apart? Eaten alive?
Guess he's gonna find out.
Fuck you. Goodbye, Leon.
No, wait. All right, no. I got it right here. Take it.
Where?
In the cemetery. It's in the old cemetery.
Thank you.
No, you said. Do it. Don't leave me out here, man. Do it. Do it. You goddamn liar. Do it.
When it comes to graphics, Days Gone is a beautiful looking game. From the heavy dense forest areas to the big wide open area to the snowy mountains and the small little neighborhoods that are placed all around Days Gone. It's a real beautiful looking game, and I really did like the look of it. I love how many of the buildings and stuff that you interact with have little small stories told to them. I love the different looks of all the camps and the different gangs that you come across, and the look of the world itself feels very, I don't know, comforting. There's some real good stuff here, and I like a lot of it. I like how there's always small stories that are told in nearly every section of the game, which kind of is really, really awesome. From the camps, the infestations, and even the infected all look really good, and how different they all look really brings this game around. You get to see how certain roads are like blocked off and completely destroyed. You get to see cars on the side of the roads like it would probably be in real life. And you even have to move some cars out of the way to make paths for you to get through. And then you get to the foresty areas where they're all like trees and open area, and then you get to like the more like desert side of the place, and that looks really good. And then eventually you get to like snowy mountaintops, and even that looks all good. I like a lot of it. The facial animations and all the characters look really good, and all of them look really different, so they're very distinct and you can tell who they are. I like the bike. The bike looks also really, really good, and Deacon himself changes throughout the story and progresses, and that all really works. So overall, this is a beautiful looking game. The music is also really, really good. Like, I was surprised how good this music is. There's some real good tracks out there that I really, really like. And I also like the voice acting. I think everybody in the voice acting did really good. Everyone was really well, and especially Deacon's character, I really, really liked. I will say this though, I was playing this on a base PS4 and it isn't the best. While the game does run fine, there were occasional frame drops nearly every single time I played. Much more frame drops in the second half of the game, but there was quite a few frame drops. And sometimes the game would not loading textures like in cutscenes, and even not loading textures at all. It will take some really bad popping, like a lot. It also loaded for quite a while. Like, it took a while to get into the game, and it took a while to have the game sometimes load up cutscenes, which was pretty bad. It would probably work better on a PC or PS5, but overall, it's a good looking game. I didn't have any issues with it whatsoever.
Yeah, neat.
Now let's get into the gameplay of Days Gone. Days Gone is a pretty standard open world game, especially when it comes to infested zombies. You'll travel the land, find scrap, kill thieves, and survive the infected. The world of Days Gone is dangerous, and there's more than just the infected that they are to kill you. Now, exploration and combat is good in Days Gone, but nothing super remarkable in my opinion. The most important thing is your bike, your only mode of transportation and what you'll explore 98% of the world with. Your motorcycle is your lifeline. It can be damaged, run out of gas, and is your only mode to maybe escape a horde of infected. Finding gas cans are as important as trying to find ammo or scrap in the world. If you start running out of gas, you'll have to stop and maybe go into the next town or the next area to find you a gas can and fill up your bike. Or maybe you get lucky and you can get to a gas station and fill there. Your bike can also get damaged by doing jumps, running into infected, running into people, or just running into a tree, and you'll need scrap to fix it. Because once it gets damaged, well, you're shit out of luck and you're gonna have to push this bike all the way to your next area. This always gives you a heightened sense in exploration. You always have to think how much gas you have left, how much damage your bike has. Do you want to travel as far as you want to go through? And what's crazy is that fast travel even takes fuel. So you always need to make sure how much you have. Now, I love the bike mechanic in this game. It always pushed me to see how much fuel I have, how much, scrap I had on me, if I could fix my bike. It made the bike very, very important and not an afterthought. I also thought I was going to have a lot of trouble driving the bike, but I didn't. I usually do when in other games driving bikes, I usually don't drive them, but in this game it was actually pretty good. They make sure that you have at least a good grip on the bike and the bike doesn't feel so like weighty and falling. You can do like drifting stuff, and you can even do like nitrous later on. You can upgrade your bike at camps and basically like larger fuel tanks, better durability, adding nitrous, all those type of stuff, and even have some cool aesthetics added to your bike as well. I love a lot of the decals in the bike, some of them even from other PlayStation games. They were actually some really cool stuff. The bike's damage on the game is also really, really good. I really loved it, and I really like the bike. Shooting on the bike also wasn't that difficult. I thought shooting was going to be really, really bad, but they do this thing where you have an automatic aim on the bike, an auto aim, and it basically, as you get closer to somebody, it slowly becomes easier to shoot at them, which made it a lot easier in certain situations when you're trying to track down some bounty hunters and they're running away on their bike. Now the bike can also alert infected and humans, so you have to make sure you stop really far before you get to take out certain camps or certain areas. Traveling is beautiful and dangerous, and there's a lot of things out there to kill you. Ambushes that can hit you off your bike and damage it, now you have to fight them out. Gangs and rippers, and even the wildlife can out to get you. Wolves are dangerous. Infected wolves even more dangerous. Bears are also dangerous. Infected bears are more dangerous. The world of Days Gone is big, but not big as in overwhelming, but also not as big as in I need to explore every nook and cranny. There's a lot to do in this game. First, there are camps. Now, camps act as your hub areas where you can refuel and fix your bike, buy some supplies, and even replenish ammo. Each camp is different, and each has different camp credits. Some will focus on your upgrading a bike, like Copeland's camp, and others will focus on upgrading your arsenal. And each camp has different camp credits, as I said before. Now, in order to upgrade the camp and make the camp have better items, you need to gain the camp's trust. And you can do this by doing certain objectives in the area, missions for them, or by finding survivors in the world and sending them to the camp. And you'll get like camp credits and you'll get trust as well. I like this little mechanic in the game. I thought it was really good. It made me want to know that if I go to one area, that there's going to be where I need to fix my bike. And if I go to the other area, that's where I'm going to get my arsenal. I will admit, though, it's not like fully fleshed out because it's really only in the early part of the game where you felt like, oh, I really need to go to this camp to go get my guns, and I really need to go to this camp to get my bike. They can all essentially refuel and fix your bike, but only some of them can give you upgrades to your bike, and then others can give you upgrades to your arsenal, which I thought was really good. It's just not fleshed out enough in my opinion. In the wild, there are ambush camps as well. Cleaning these camps out will allow you to have safe travel in the area, as well as unlock crafting recipes. I really like this part of the game, just allowed me to always go and find these camps, get crafting recipes, which I can use to upgrade, not only get melee weapons, but craft a variety of stuff in my arsenal. Infestation areas are where the infected have made nests, and you had to clear them out to allow fast travel through these areas. And lastly, there are Nero checkpoints where you can get the Nero injection that can upgrade your health, stamina, and focus, which is basically a slow down mechanic where you can slow the game down and you can shoot people. It's a very good mechanic. You'll use it like 98% of the time. But these are not only at Nero checkpoints, which are good, where you can like do like a mini game trying to figure out where the gas is and then fill up the generator and then take out all the freaking speakers because it's gonna alert everybody. But they can also be hidden in caves and really dangerous areas that you have to only access by jumping with your bike. All of that's really good. The exploration in this game, I did enjoy quite a lot. Combat is fine, nothing groundbreaking, but still good. You have a huge arsenal at your disposal, from guns, grenades, traps, all to take on the infected and humans. You have 3 guns you can carry: a sidearm, which is your normal pistol or shorty, a main weapon, which is your shotguns, machine guns, and a special weapon, which could be a crossbow, a sniper rifle, or a heavy machine gun. Each of these weapons, nearly all of them, can be applied with a suppressor. And you can find suppressors out in the wild, just as you can find scrap out in the wild. And suppressors you can add them to it, and they all have durability towards them, meaning that you'll have to make sure that if you get close to running out, you'll have to replace them. And if you are running out of ammo in the game, you either have to find new guns that are around in the area or find a police car which can provide you with ammo. This always made you sure that you're checking how much ammo you have, what guns you're using, how much suppressor things you have, which again keeps you always on your toes. You can lay traps for the infected and humans. Smoke bombs, distractions, and even attractions to bring the infected to certain areas are all really fun. You can deal with the enemy in a loud, aggressive, up your front way, just go guns blazing, or you can be silent and stealthy, and the stealth mechanics in this game are actually pretty good. Deacon can crawl under areas, he can climb over stuff, he can also go from behind and kill people silently. And I don't think it's an ability you have to unlock. I'm not really sure. You also have melee combat, and melee combat in here is pretty good. You can carry 1 melee weapon with you, and eventually you get the ability to upgrade these melee weapons so they can do more damage. Each melee weapon has a damage meter and a durability. Once it gets low on durability, you'll have to find a new melee weapon. Though later on you do get the ability to level this in a level up system. You get a level up where you can use scrap to repair it. And everything in this game uses scrap. So scrap's your most important resource. If you want to make bombs or molotovs or repair your melee weapon, or maybe make some distractions, everything uses scrap or uses some form of scrap in the game. Some uses the plants, some will use the little damp rags you find everywhere. You'll have to make sure that you always have a good selection, and you can even upgrade your inventory much later. The level up system is pretty fine, nothing super crazy. You have 3 different tiers of it: one that focuses on your arsenal, one that focuses on exploration in the world, and one that focuses on melee and your stamina. Basically, all of that's really good. I will say though, you don't get like a upgrade for your inventory when it comes to like the scrap and what you can find in the world until really late in the level up system. That's one thing I found pretty cool. So you will have like 10 scrap on you for most of the game, unless you go like through the one tier that basically tries to get you everything. And I will admit, you don't level up super fast in this game. It does take a while to level up, which I don't know, I kind of super liked as well. Now, of course, while this is all really cool, the main attraction of this game, well, the main attraction is the infected. There's not only just one main attraction, there's kind of 2. The infected is the one main attraction, and the other is the horde. Yes, the infected are cool, are dangerous, and some are fast, slow, and more powerful than others. There's a good variety of them, each giving you something different to deal with, each making you think on your toes. The game has a day and night cycle that directly affects the infected. In day, they are less infected, but a little bit more powerful. They all hide in caves, so if you have a neuro checkpoint that's in the cave, you could wake up some bad infected if you run in there. At night, they are way more active, way more dangerous, way more roaming in the areas, and you can see them all around. This will play into how you handle situations. Like I said, the infected are this dangerous bunch, but you can also use them to your advantage. You could use them to take out camps and help you out of sticky situations. Things like attractor bombs to bring in a whole host of small infected around the area to come to this camp and start taking them out without having you to fire a single shot. Then hide away, make sure you're not anywhere near them, and then have them walk off while you pick up the scraps. It all is really, really cool. But of course, the main attraction is the Horde. A mass of infected that have gathered together. A Horde could have between 20 to 70 infected, each more impressive than the other. And the thing is, the game wants you to take on the Horde. While you can run away from the Horde and not take them on through most of the game, at certain points in the story, they will have you taking on the Horde. And it's a doable but difficult task. You'll need a lot of ammo, grenades, and many lucky moments. Sometimes the Horde is in a very small area, and you can plan it out, put some traps here and there, lead the Horde to the certain area and have them blowing up. Each Horde is kind of different, and this can take you to leading onto very crazy situations, and you can even mistakenly grow the Horde by running into more infected in the area, making the Horde even bigger. Heck, you can even create your own mini Horde. If there's enough small infected around the area and you throw an attractor bomb into a camp, a good small of them can come. It is always impressive with the Horde. I loved seeing it in the game. Whenever you came across it in game by just exploration, it's super scary and it's super tense. Heck, when you walk into caves, it's super scary and intense. They're just this big mass of people. But I will say one thing about the game is that while the Horde is really awesome, it's also kind of lackluster. At first I thought this Horde was this roaming mass in the game. You just find them sprout all over the map here and there, and sometimes you do come across them. But they're actually in more controlled areas on the map, which I kind of found disappointing. If you drive one area and you saw the Horde and you rode away, if you come back the next day around nighttime, and you'll see that same Horde at the same place. And now, they won't go away until you take them out, but it just kind of felt that they weren't this roaming mass. Now, to be fair, some of the Horde is moving and does move around throughout the game, but it just felt that many of them were just in these areas that were at certain points, and if you drove like far enough away from them or ran far enough away from them, then they would actually stop following you, which I found was pretty mediocre. If you do want to take on the Horde, around the end of the game, they actually reveal to you where all the Hordes are on the map, and you can find them and take them on. I always felt it was this exhilarating experience of taking them on. At first, I was super scared on taking on the Horde, but as I grew more confident in the game and got more of my arsenal, I became way more into wanting to take on the Horde. But the infected also evolve over time. As you progress the story, you'll come across new freakers such as the Brute and the Screamer, and these guys will actually start appearing on the map and become more frequent and showing up. This always keeps it open world kind of fresh, especially for the late game. Like Brutes just start showing up in the Hordes, and Screamers start showing up all over the place, and they knock you off your bike, and now you have like no stamina to deal with them. It's all fantastic. I love a lot of this game's gameplay, but there's just some stuff I don't think that stands out. It does everything really well. The shooting is great, the melee combat is fantastic, the stealth and the loud combative moments are great, exploration is fun and exhilarating, and sometimes I felt that exploration also was kind of boring because there really isn't much to do. There really isn't even random stuff that happens in the game. Sometimes there is random stuff, like you could run into a trap and then you get caught up in a trap on a snare, and other times you find like random guys, again like random survivors that you gotta save, but there isn't like random missions that just pop up, or somebody just driving by and being like, hey, can you help me out with this? Let's go check it out. Nothing like that in the game. Days Gone is pretty old school when it comes to its open world. Certain areas of the map in the beginning are completely closed off until you progress later on in the story. So it's a very old school mindset of open world games, where most open world games nowadays is the moment you start the game, you can go anywhere. Not so much this. It reminded me of like old school GTA games where the islands are cut off and you have to wait until a certain point in the story where it actually allows you to go over to the next area. And I don't know if I liked it or not. I kind of did like that because it kept me in the beginning of the game just to seek out one area. The game also has a really good checkpoint system for you to check what is in the area. If you ever want to 100% this game, which is actually doable, you can actually 100%. There's a lot I like about Days Gone, but again, nothing to me remarkable. I think I could see why a lot of people would say Days Gone is a really good game, but it's also a game that is kind of forgettable overall. They do a lot of things right, but nothing that stands out. Like I said, the Horde is really awesome. I just wish that the Horde was like always available and always this roaming massive stuff. Once you clear out all the Horde on the map, they never show up again. Now you can create your own, like create like a small mini own like Horde, but you never can just find a gigantic mass of them in the world. And I kind of feel that's a missed opportunity. But overall, Days Gone's gameplay is a solid time. There's nothing super crazy, though I will admit there was one major bug. This happens around the late game, and it's all focused on trying to go into this cave and save these people from this cave. You'll know where it is. It's basically an O'Brien mission. If you play the game, you'll know who O'Brien is. This bug is a major bug, and I found a lot of people have this bug. That eventually, once you get to the end of the mission, you're supposed to fight this gigantic horde in this cave, or run away from this cave. But there will be points where the horde doesn't spawn at all, meaning you're stuck in this game's loop. You can't get out of it. So the only way to get out of it is to do like a hard save, then quit the game, like quit the game completely, load the game in, and then load the game up from that hard save you did, and then it will restart the checkpoint, restart the mission from the beginning, and hopefully the horde will load again. That's what I did, and the horde did load in, and I was able to finish that mission. That's one of the biggest bugs in this game, and I recommend if that comes across, that's how you get out of it. It was really the only bug I think I had in the game. Everything else was normal standard open world stuff, like certain things didn't load in, or maybe a mission didn't pop here, or someone got killed. Nothing super crazy, except for that one. I got super scared when the horde didn't load, and I spent like a good 20 minutes and it never happened, and I was like, what the hell's going on? I don't know what's going on. Luckily, that's the fix for it. I recommend you do that, and that's really the only big bug of it. So, is Days Gone a bad game? No, it's actually really good. There's a lot I really like about this game. I love the story and the characters within it. Some of the best character writing I've seen. And while yes, it takes a while to get going and it's a bit draggy at the end, it's still really good. The gameplay is all around good. Nothing amazing, but all around great. And I really loved taking on the Horde. It's an experience unlike any other when it comes to a zombie game. But I feel like Days Gone was done dirty. If you compare it to its other exclusives such as God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Ghost of Tsushima, that game fails in comparison to any single one of them. Those are games feel much higher, much more rich in quality, pointing more to the future. Where Days Gone is a game that harkens into the past, which isn't a bad thing, it's just not what PlayStation was pushing at the time. It's a shame. If this game released maybe earlier in the PlayStation's life cycle and was before all of those titles, it might have been much more well received and even been given higher reviews instead of the middling reviews it did get, which I kind of agree by. This game is pretty average overall. It's not bad by any means, but if you compare it to the crazy storytelling and camera cuts of God of War and the interesting world of Horizon Zero Dawn and how beautiful Ghost of Tsushima looks, it all pales in comparison. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't play Days Gone. You actually should. There's a lot here that I loved, and a lot that I would have loved to have seen done better in maybe a sequel. Days Gone is a game that might have flown under everyone's radar, but I recommend if you're looking for an old school open world game with some great character writing and exhilarating zombie and infected fights, then Days Gone should be up your alley. You can find it on PC as well as on PlayStation. I don't know if it's on the PlayStation catalog. I do know it was once available for PlayStation Plus, but it is definitely worth your time. You'll get a good 20 plus hours into it, and you definitely won't be bored at all. I was never bored playing this game. But overall, Days Gone is a game that I think you should play on a great Sunday afternoon. I'll see you guys in the next game.
You could see just what you do to me. Why don't you speak no more? And I tell you how it goes when nobody really knows just who you are today. And I just wanna go home, a place that I don't know, where I can waste away.